video today about the archetype of the victim, just to bring awareness on how the victim can create so much chaos in our lives under the guise of keeping us protected and safe. The victim archetype is a survival archetype, and that means that it's born out of the illusion of separation. And so its MO, I guess, is to ensure our survivability. But its ideas about keeping us safe and what's needed for our survivability is actually, because it's born out of the illusion of separation, it inherently keeps us disconnected from our true, unique, divine nature and disconnected from God. The victim archetype works closely with the saboteur as well, together, and also with the prostitute. And that trio keeps us safe from big love, divine love, big unconditional human love. It keeps us safe from success in the workplace, success in our relationships. It keeps us stagnant, not taking action. It can prevent us from taking self-care steps. And so, as I list out those things, you can hear how, well, I don't want to be protected from that. I don't want the victim and the saboteur and the prostitute to keep me from those things. And so because there is that part inside of you that thinks that, this is an important conversation to have. This is why I wanted to make this video and bring this under a magnifying glass for closer inspection, because the victim archetype inevitably creates chaos, and together with the saboteur keeps us from really living our true, unique and divine purpose with integrity. It's a funny thing because it's a play of power, while at the same time stealing our power. So I wanted to share with you the story of a client of mine where the victim is playing its perfect part. So my client works in a public institution, and he works as part of the maintenance team. And so he was called to a floor, and when he got there, there was an employee already on the ladder changing the light bulb. So we can say that there's nothing wrong with that scenario. But within his own mind, the victim, made everything wrong with that scenario. She shouldn't be on the ladder. That's not her job. I don't do her job. She doesn't even know what she's doing. It's dangerous. And so as a result of making what he was seeing wrong, he had an internal reaction, which was rage. He ended up blasting the employee, blasting anybody else who was in the vicinity. But that reaction, that rage, eventually wears itself out. It's unsustainable, that energy. And then on the other side of that, then is, now I feel bad. And so then it plummets to guilt and shame, which can then result in tears and self-pity. Now, what also happens out of that is that the people, other colleagues, now want to, help the chaos be over, right? So they step in to try and help him feel better. and they ask him, how can he feel better? How can they help? Because people are good people, and also people want to calm the chaos because they want to they don't want to be in the chaos. They want to feel they want to feel comfortable again, right? So they step in to help in order to help themselves be at peace and return to calm, right? So now the victim is still in control. So the victim has controlled the environment by creating chaos, then has now, through the self-pity, is controlling the attention that's being received. So the victim actually gets what it's looking for in terms of attention, taking pity, which is not taking responsibility for your feelings, not taking responsibility for happiness, and then at this moment not taking responsibility for the overreaction, because there are many ways that could have gone, because all that was actually happening was nothing much. All that was happening was that there was a woman on a ladder. So from the floor's point of view, from the wall's point of view, from the air's point of view, there's not a caring, which is God's point of view. There's not a caring. It's wholly contained and wholly allowed. And I've mentioned this before, that if it's already happening, it's already been allowed. And so had my client's perspective been congruent with God's, his response to what he was seeing would have been totally different. It would have been empowered instead of losing and leaking his power all over the place, while getting kind of cheap power hits through the rage, through the impact, through the pity party, and then getting the attention from his other colleagues. So as the colleagues were asking for how they can help and what he needs to feel better, he starts to kind of tell them all things that are wrong with the place of employment. And then obviously that conversation could be, it's a valid conversation. We can make observations of how things can be improved, and there's an appropriate time, there's the appropriate people, there's the appropriate place to have that conversation, not necessarily as a result of having a pity party, which was a result of having acted badly because the victim had made something relatively benign into something incredibly wrong. I often say that people are like puppies. And so if we take a nice step back, what we see is a bulldog has misunderstood. If you have dogs, you know that dogs often misunderstand their surroundings. So you might have a friend come and visit, and then your dog is barking like crazy, because that's the way they protect when they don't understand. So that's what we're working with here. We're working with that same mechanism of misunderstanding and making that which is happening wrong, which is what the victim does. The victim makes things wrong and then doesn't take responsibility for what's taking place, their part in it, and then also how they feel about it. And then they go into blame and shame, and that blame and that shame can be brought, can be turned inward, or it can be emoted outwardly. So if we take a moment to look at what's actually happening, by his barking and his growling, he's communicating to his environment that, I'm scary, I'm dangerous, don't come near me. Yet what he's seeking deep down is to be loved, to be taken care of, to be soothed, and to be nurtured. Now, he does get a little bit of that when the colleagues come up to him and rub his back and, are you okay? how can we help? And then I know his story, so I know that he, in his personal time, takes it to the next level to self-soothe, and then finds comfort in a sexual interaction that is outside of a love relationship and outside of monogamy. So there's the protection, you see, because the victim is protecting him from getting the kind of true love and connection, human connection, that he's truly deep down looking for. And then his actions, the victim's actions, reflect back to him his lack of lovability. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, you see. Let's kind of rewrite the script, right? Let's say that, you know, he walks onto the floor. He's by the side of God. He's holding God's hand, and together they're looking at the scene. So if the colleague is already on the ladder, she should be on the ladder, because for no other reason than that's what's happening. She is on the ladder. Now that's God's perspective. God's perspective is what is. It's reality as it is. So if he was sharing God's perspective and sharing the point of view that she should be on the ladder for no other reason than she is, then what can be in place is a curiosity and perhaps a desire to help, because essentially that's his job. So, you know, what could be in the room is, like I said, a curiosity. Kind of, he waits for the appropriate moment because she's, you know, on a ladder, so he doesn't want to scare her, because that would be dangerous. So he could, you know, be watching and then waiting for the opportune time, waiting until she notices him, and then offering, you know, I see you're on the ladder, I'm here now, I can help you with that, I can take over from here. And then it's a beautiful exchange, and then, you know, the people around also see this beautiful exchange. And so then I offered to my client that, you know, imagine that, right? Then, you know, everybody in the room is thinking, wow, what a great, gracious guy. And I said, you know, but deep down there's a part of you that doesn't like that, because the saboteur wants to keep you in chaos. The saboteur and the victim want to keep you in chaos, so that as long as you're in vulnerability, as long as you're the one that needs to be taken care of, then you aren't required, or you won't be called upon to take care of others. And that's the fear. The fear is that others will look to you to take care of them. Whereas if I stay in vulnerability and if I stay in weakness, then I'm the one who needs that care. And so sure enough, he found that. He was able to find that, that scares me. So the next step is to see the truth around that, which is that showing up with such grace and inviting God to join you in the room provides you with incredible strength, and you can then give what you receive, because there's the false belief that the victim and the saboteur will tell you is that you will get depleted, that they will take more than what you can give. But that's a false belief, because we give what we receive. So if we've already received it, we have it to give, and there's more to receive the more we give. And that's really where true service is, and that's really where our the grand, great, divine love and the human love lies. And then when we looked at it more deeply, you know, I said, okay, well, so her, the colleague's mindset was probably, well, you know, if I need something done, I may as well do it myself. A lot of us have that kind of thinking, right? And it's a little bit of the martyr. So we've got all of the survival archetypes here in this video. But, he could relate to that. He's like, well, that's just like me. And yes, exactly. So this whole scenario is an opportunity to live the golden rule. And the golden rule is to treat others as I would want to be treated. And that means not treating others as I would want to be treated as them, but treating them as myself, recognizing that they are me and treating them as myself. And that truly is living the golden rule with integrity. So it was a big opportunity for him. And so I'm grateful for our time together to kind of work through it and really magnify and illuminate the pattern, the pattern of the victim, the saboteur, to a degree the prostitute, because the prostitute then finds that solace and that comfort, that human connection, in a way that's not really real. If you find yourself kind of a victim to the victim, if you're on the other side of this story, I want to share how to, when things are settled, how to have a conversation with the victim. The ingredients for a conversation to help them without being confronting. It's just a gentle conversation, but to help the victim kind of see their own racket and to help them find their own solutions, because people are puppies and they don't know what they don't know, and we're still, our job is to still help them feel safe, because they act out because they don't feel safe. They don't have high self-esteem. They have disconnected from their lovability. They don't see themselves through God's eyes. They're disconnected from their magnificence. And so our job, as we have conversations like this, is to help them remember that they're safe, to remember that they're loved, that they're wanted, that they belong, that they are important and deserve to be here, and that they have an important purpose, to create possibility for them, which is, what we did with my client. We painted a whole new picture of how it could go, where, we kind of like highlighted how the victim just went to like making it wrong, making that judgment, and then how that hijacked his peace and just took over his body. And then to see, okay, well, is there a possibility where you enter the room with a curiosity and a willingness to serve, as opposed to going in with the MO that, something's wrong and he's right and needs to fix it. And so I hope that this video was helpful. And like I said, in my next one, I would like to go through the ingredients of how to have a gentle, respectful, illuminating conversation with a victim in your life, a victim who you love and want to help them find peace.